This is a video we made with a few VIPs and experts around the world to ask for the release of international lawyer Dr. Rainer Fulmich, detained today by Nazi Germany.
Here is why you should never join a Zoom meeting again. Zoom stores and sells your data. With our new platform, CloudHub Meets 2.0, your privacy is protected and your info stays yours. CloudHub Meets uses end-to-end encryption, keeping your meetings private and secure. CloudHub Meets is hassle-free. No app downloads or installations required. Switch to CloudHub Meets and take control of your conversations today.
Good morning, Backchoice and CloudHub family. How are you today, Todd?
Happy New Year! Holy smokes, Cordelia, the last day of 2025. I'm great. How about you?
I'm good. I'm excited for the new year, and I'm excited for what this new year will bring for all of us. And we have a lovely guest today, as you heard in our intro for today, special for today, that Cece made for us.
That's right. My hero, Ivan Raiklin. And he is, by the way. He's my hero. Cool guy. You're going to love this.
Yes, but first we have an excellent monologue to get to. I'll be in the background.
Excellent or not. Thank you, Cordelia. We persevere anyway. Not always the best news, not always the bad. The good news is we got Ivan to finish out the year because he's going to add a lot of context to exactly what our monologue is about today, because it relates to the great deception. Everything is a deception. Why? Because the war is for your mind, your soul, your spirit. But the war is also on us. So when you see these things in the news, and this is going to be a great one, and you see the usual suspects all agree, the consensus, yeah, it is this because we all said it's this way, you can be assured that it's not that. But we have now the rolling out of the disclosure as to aliens, and they change UFO to UAP, whatever that even means. And it's failing miserably. They're trying to get everybody's attention. So now we've got this latest peer-reviewed piece. There's been satellites outside of our Earth's orbit for eons, and now we just found them. Watch this deception. NASA is at it again.
From flat, highly reflective surfaces in geosynchronous orbit. That's exactly what explains you're talking about. How many of these objects are we talking about, Beatrice?
So we had two candidates that are highly interesting that the paper resulted in. There's still one little caveat. For these two candidates, there's a minuscule chance that it might be something called optical ghosting in the instruments. What speaks against it is because we looked at the blue sensitive images and you don't see anything there. If it would be optical ghosting, you would also see with the same setup of the instruments, you would see something there, but we don't. However, we always leave that little caveat. But what even more talks about that these things are real is because when we look at all the transients, not only at the aligned ones, but all the transients in the Earth's shadow, we do see this huge deficit of transients. And that really speaks for that what we are dealing with are solar reflections from very flat, very reflective objects in geosynchronous orbit.
Yeah, she goes on to talk about how science and nature and these big publications have all peer-reviewed this and said, yeah, they're really out there. And yet they didn't move the needle, right? Nobody's freaking out about it. Why? Because we all collectively understand the game. And the game is they say things, they do things to affect the way that you think. How about crisis actors, right? We had one in Australia not long ago, a mass shooting of Jewish folks on the beach in Bondi, Australia. I think it's a suburb of Melbourne. And it sounds horrible until you start getting into the details. Watch this guy.
Israel the last 13 years.
Andy?
I lived in Israel the last 13 years. We came here only 2 weeks ago to work with the Jewish community, to fight anti-Semitism, to fight this bloodthirsty, ravaging hatred.
That's why you're here. That interview immediately didn't sit right with me, so I AI searched this guy to find out who he is. This is Arsen Ostrovsky. He's a human rights lawyer and the CEO of the International Legal Forum. They're an NGO, Israel-based global coalition of lawyers that are combating anti-Semitism in the international legal arena. When I decided to look into him, I found a lot. He's basically just an Israeli mouthpiece and massive Zionist.
Yeah, I thought they actually had the piece, but there's a clip with him, putting on all the makeup, the blood, and everything else. Because again, all of this is designed to change the way we think, and you just have to pay attention. Who's doing it for what purpose? And in the words of Deep Throat, follow the money, as the case may be. But this kind of warfare is actually what Ivan Raiklin, our guest, is going to talk to us about today, because he was a Green Beret, and this is the kind of stuff that happens. Green Berets overthrow governments. You'll get to that in a minute. But now we have regime change in Venezuela. And I can't wait to ask Ivan about this. Watch Tucker Carlson here. This was a week or so ago, and let's see what happened as a result.
Is Trump going to start a war in Venezuela?
I don't know. I don't know when this program airs, the one that we're on right now. This thing's maybe live.
We're live now, and then
okay.
It'll be posted immediately. So now,
my sense is, I don't know the answer. I've certainly been on the phone a lot about it. I have no power. I'm a podcaster, but I'm very interested. And so here's what I know so far, which is that members of Congress were briefed yesterday that a war is coming, and it'll be announced in the address to the nation tonight at 9:00 by the president. Who knows, by the way, if that will actually happen? I don't know. And I never want to overstate what I know, which is pretty limited in general.
Todd, you are muted.
Thank you, Cordelia. I'm sorry, I was saying Tucker was being used. He was being used. And I don't know if he knew he was being used, probably because he put all the caveats into there. But there's more to this. So watch this Cuban intelligence officer disclose how it all works. And by the way, I specifically chose the Cubans, number one, because I know the Cuban intelligence people intimately, secondarily, they're running Venezuela. In fact, they're running a lot of South America. So pay attention to what this guy has to say, please. Did you find that one, Cordelia, or did I screw up again?
I had an opportunity to interview a Cuban intelligence asset agent. He had retired, defected, and he went all the way back to Castro. It was Castro and the Soviets early in his career. By the end of his time, he was with the Venezuelans, Iranians, and the Chinese. Cuba always looking to destabilize us. And he said, listen, I'm going to just be honest with you. We're targeting your education system, and I'm going to give you our 5 principles of warfare. It's easier to change a young mind than an older mind. It's easier to create instability when you create division in America. It's easier to create confusion when you normalize the abnormal. And if you portray law and order as fascism, you can tear down a democratic Western society. Now, take those principles I just gave you and think about what teachers' unions and school districts brought into your schools in the last decade. Normalize the abnormal. Let's have a man go into a women's bathroom pretending he's a female athlete and let him win all the awards on the podium. DEI and CRT were designed to create division, to divide America between 2 classes of people, the oppressed and the oppressors. The oppressors are white people. Everyone else falls into the oppressed class. If you divide a country along those lines and you train children that that's the story, now you can start to create the protest movement that starts to bring down the country. The other thing he said is that in Marxism, crisis is the key. You have to keep creating another crisis to create the sense that your country is falling apart. Now think about the inscription on some of the bullets that were recently recovered in some of these assassination attempts. Catch this, fascist. Fascism is anyone who believes in law and order, who believes in the Judeo-Christian society.
Yeah, crisis is key, and confusion. That was item number 3. So now we have the WARN Act. Remember when everybody's cell phones went off? They did a nationwide digital screening. It was an emergency alert. It's just a test, whatever. But the people in Hawaii didn't know it was a test. They all got under the manhole covers in the sewers to hide from the nuclear weapons they thought were inbound. The point being, is it's designed to scare the crap out of you. And now the WARN Act, W-A-R-N, is going to be law if this bill passes. They tried it in 2006. Effectively, what happens is the government takes control of your cell phone, and they can put a warning or any other message they want to on any of your devices or all of them at the same time. Doesn't that sound very useful if you're trying to scare the hell out of everybody or create confusion, right? Or crisis, as the case may be, but of course. And now we have AI jumping into the mix, because that is going to solve the confusion problem, especially on the battlefield, as humans make mistakes. Here's the last clip. Watch this.
The collapse of the Assad regime in Syria, along with the rise of non-state actors throughout the region, has further complicated attempts to establish effective mediation mechanisms. Without pragmatic restraint and renewed political will from all parties, regional stability will continue to be elusive as the cycle of violence requires new approaches that current political frameworks cannot accommodate. The precedents established during this conflict have created a new paradigm for Middle Eastern geopolitics that renders previous peace frameworks obsolete. The introduction of autonomous weapon systems and AI-guided targeting capabilities has created security environments where traditional negotiation assumptions no longer apply, forcing regional actors to confront realities that extend far beyond the immediate combat zones and will influence global security considerations for years to come. The 2025 escalation marks the end of conventional Middle Eastern warfare and the beginning of something far more dangerous. Advanced weapon systems and coordinated attacks have transformed regional conflict into a testing ground for technologies that blur the lines between combatants and civilians in ways that demand new rules of engagement and diplomacy. Military academies worldwide now study these battles as required curriculum because the tactics employed represent fundamental changes in how conflicts affect civilian populations. The integration of autonomous targeting systems with human decision-making has created challenges that require updated international norms and reaffirmation of humanitarian law. The June International Conference on the Two-State Solution represents a potential turning point for establishing diplomatic frameworks that address these new realities.
Folks, I hope you watch that at least 10 times. Watch it and watch it again and listen carefully, because this is now AI diplomacy. They're setting the stage. Humans can't do diplomacy anymore. We're not any good at it. We destroyed all of the Middle East. We need AI to come in and sort it out. And it says AI autonomous, and then he says, oh, by the way, human decision making. That is a contradiction. It's paradoxical. AI autonomy means it's making the decisions. It's doing its own thing. That is the point of the word autonomy. That's exactly the plan. AI is our new governance, and they're telling you about it right there. By the way, backed up by kamikaze drones they've been testing in Ukraine and other such places. So with all of that said, we've got our own expert today, Ivan Raiklin, not only a Green Beret from USARI, also a lawyer, learned, sharp, doesn't take prisoners, and he doesn't take shit from anybody. So I'm grateful to have you here. Ivan Raiklin, welcome to Truth Be Told, along with the rest of the lovely ladies in Posse. My God, man.
Ho, ho, ho! Belated Merry Christmas! Wait.
I love it, man.
That way people don't think I'm Ivan Raiklin. I need to put it up like this. You couldn't even tell it was me, right, Todd?
No, I didn't see
it. All right, so I can breathe. I'm going to take this off.
Yeah, you can.
Because the air just goes into my lungs.
Brother,
that was great.
Thanks for being here, along with the lovely ladies on our Wednesday, all of whom wear their hats, and I feel obligated to kind of join in.
Quite the intro song. I was told that today I was supposed to wear a hat, and I one-upped you, so I had to wear.
You wore the headphones as your hat, right?
You did one of these. Beautiful.
No, this was my hat. Right here.
I'm wearing my glasses as a hat. There you
go. Do us all a favor, for those who don't know you, everybody knows you, but give us a little bit of background before we delve into some things. And also, I do have a clip I want to play at some point, maybe when you're done. Just
first we need to give props to Caroline, because that song, I mean, Pat Benatar, forget it. We got Cece in the house, so.
And you call me old.
That was a great intro song. Why didn't you play the whole thing? I was mesmerized.
I wrote that like 2 years ago, though, when the first time I met him in Houston, and I'm like, this guy is on our side, and I'm writing a song.
On fire.
That was so good.
Beautiful. Thank you, Carolyn.
Maybe
All right,
Cece,
Ivan,
you introduced Ivan.
Tell us where you came from, how you got here, man. It's a great
All right, and on February 29th, I became a bicentennial baby in 1976. So I'm approaching the half-century mark. I feel like I'm 20, though. I think I can take most 20-year-olds.
You're a leap year baby?
I am a leap year baby, absolutely.
So
So that actually makes me, I'll be 12 and a half.
Yes, exactly. Okay.
Yes, 12 and a half.
I'm envious.
Coming up.
Yeah, right.
So what have I done over the last half century? I don't know. I decided for half of it to be in the military national security arena, picked up a law degree, acted as though I'm a lawyer, actually still act as though I'm a lawyer, and have a pretty good couple of substantial clients that most people would recognize those names, but we won't disclose whose they are for privacy reasons. And what else do we have going on? Yeah, I just decided to go after the deep state by name, date, place, transgression. And I only like to escalate. So when they come after me, we increase pressure. And so in a game of chicken, I either win or you lose. And so we'll see what happens.
You actually have a list. You have a list, right?
I got the deep state target list. It grows with every day that we expose corruption and treason and just individual liberty violations at scale nationally. Might have to do another category based on what has been exposed the last few weeks. But I mean, those are lesser crimes, right? Defrauding someone financially, I would say, is a lesser crime than destruction of the constitutional order through treason, right?
Exactly.
Of governmental actors.
Right.
Because what we're seeing in Minnesota, for example, while it's going viral and it plays well, it diverts from actually going after traitors. So I don't know. I mean, I think depending on where we're going to go with this conversation, I'm very critical of cowards.
Let's play this. We've got this clip because it feeds exactly into what you're talking about. You're taking people to task on Capitol Hill. I don't know who you were talking to in this particular clip, but you can fill us in. But you name names, dude. You don't shy away from saying what's on your mind, and I freaking love that. It's really inspiring to me, and it's even more fun to watch people melt away as you chase them down. Play this first clip. Would you go ahead, Cordelia?
DOJ and FBI, the raid on Mar-a-Lago was to seize the evidence that was declassified by Donald Trump in the last few hours of his first term, which involved the Crossfire Hurricane details, which would list all the names that I've mentioned so far. Whether it was Lisa Page, who was Andy McCabe's chief counsel at the time, along with Peter Strzok, a guy by the name of Joseph Pientka III, who is currently the number 3 individual at the San Francisco field office. So you have a chief, you have the special agent in charge, you have a ASAC, assistant special agents in charge, and then you have the ASAC for counterintelligence. That guy is a guy by the name of Joseph Pientka III, who was the second agent that was deployed to interview General Flynn on January 24th, 2017, in order to get General Flynn fired or to get him to lie. That was an entrapment, and that's the same agent that was deployed in August of 2016 to the Trump campaign to do what they call a counterintelligence briefing, a defensive one, but with the secondary purpose in order to, and this was him, Pientka, along with Trump, Chris Christie. You know that Chris Christie's attorney during his Bridgegate scandal was Christopher Wray?
I didn't know that.
Well, now you know. And then the third person in that meeting was a guy by the name of General Flynn. Joe Pientka was deployed by the Crossfire Hurricane leadership, authorized by the general counsel at the time, Jim Baker, who then later became the Twitter 1.0 number 2 lawyer.
Ivan, where are these people today? You name names, you call it out, you show the fraud, and what happened as a result?
Well, Joseph Pientka III was hired as a senior advisor to Eric Swallowswell in his California office. So he retired from the San Francisco field office, continues to freely treason because this DOJ and this administration this is where I'm going to insult some folks because they are worthy of insulting, are beta cuck cowards at best. Okay.
How do you really feel?
So for the last year, while people said, Ivan, give them time, I said that on January 20th, we basically have less than a year or about a year to get this solved. And specifically, particularly if the Democrats win in Virginia, we can kind of explain how that's going to look. But bottom line here is that John Brennan's still freely treasoning. He's coordinating with the incoming Virginia Democrat governor, Abby Spanberger, who is sworn in on January 17th in about 2.5 weeks, along with the Democrat Attorney General, who's going to carry the water of Jack Smith, Fannie Willis, Alvin Bragg, and Letitia James of what they paused over the last year, and going to continue to escalate with lawfare, lawfence, assassination attempts, and successful assassinations, and then look the other way from the perch of Richmond, Virginia, because most of the intelligence community, a good portion of those that are in this administration work or live in Virginia. So it wouldn't be hard for them to use Commonwealth's attorneys, meaning district attorneys in Northern Virginia and Fairfax, Alexandria, Arlington, etc., and working with the AG in Virginia to conduct maximum lawfare for what? Oh, we'll just come up with a county transgression or a state transgression against Tulsi Gabbard, against Pete Hegseth, against anyone exposing the deep state target list. They're going to do a counter and essentially stop any of that lawfare from taking place against themselves. Well, it's not lawfare, it's just justice. And they're just going to go ahead and escalate. And I expect this administration, if there are not mass arrests by the 17th of January, to include seditious co-conspirators, Abby Spanberger and Jay Jones, and the rest of them that live and work in Virginia. Good luck, because I think it's going to be complete scorched earth. They're going to take the model of what Jack Smith did, escalate it on steroids. They're going to do what Crooks did, escalate that. They're going to take what the gentleman that marked Charlie Kirk and use that as a model moving forward. And then they're going to also use a different model that they used against us with the whole pandemic and COVID con. Why? Because Republicans didn't do a single thing to stop them and hold those previously to account. And so you reap what you sow, and the inaction that you have participated in, Donald, Pam, Cash, Dan, Todd Blanche, and the rest of them at the DOJ, you reap what you sow. So I'll be sitting back and watching, either from Retribution Global headquarters here or in a cell myself if they happen to capture me alive, as I'll be basically laughing, telling you that I warned you, I told you so, you didn't listen, you called me a panikin, you called me all these different names that I could care less about, and now you're going to face the consequences of inaction.
Well, Dan's not there anymore, though. Remember?
Hang on. All of
so he's a quitter.
Dan just left.
All of this is to say one thing, Ivan, and that is our government is being destroyed from within. You call out the Republicans for inaction, but you got protagonists of the Democrats. The reality is they're all on the same freaking team, and they are destroying our nation.
Yeah, two comments. The only thing worse than a Republican is a Democrat, okay? Democrats we went from a tyrannical, illegitimate, belligerent regime through COVID con and a stolen illegal election. And then we replaced it with a beta, toxic, feckless, cuck, coward administration. Now, granted, if you compare the two, I would much prefer a toxic, feckless, stone cold coward simp not being tyrannical on me, okay? Which we're in right now. Rather than someone that's being tyrannical and I have to fight and be on defense all the time in order to crush them, right? So we're in a better spot, but now we need to upgrade.
Okay, but why deadline of January 17th? Why'd you say the 17th? I already know, but I want you to explain.
Yeah, so we just had elections in Virginia in November, because in Virginia we have elections every year. The odd years you have a governor or the state house, state senate. So on January 17th, you will have a trifecta domestic terrorist Democrat government in the Commonwealth of Virginia. That rounds out to now where we're going to have a trifecta domestic terrorist Democrats in DC, in Maryland, and in Virginia. So those three jurisdictions.
There's our Bermuda Triangle.
That is what's called the DMV, the district, DC, Maryland, Virginia. And everybody that works in the admin that's supposedly working the problem, they're going to have to face local jurisdictional lawfare, 100% of it, right? From those positions. And you're going to be like, a lot of people that are still in the mindset of traditional conventional politics. Well, why? If they didn't do anything wrong, what would they be charged with? It doesn't matter. Your existence as a political opponent is the reason why they're going to slaughter you. Okay.
But
so on January 17th is when Abby Spanberger, the Democrat governor of Virginia, swears in. Saturday, January 17th. A week prior to that, you're going to have a House and Senate that's Democrat. And if the laws aren't favorable to them, they're just going to pass laws so that they can start to murder children after they're born, just like in New York and California. If the children survive the in vitro murder or the post vitro murder, then they're going to go ahead and advocate the new medical products known as child mutilation. Okay. So they're going to escalate on that front. They're going to totally change. I think New York has proposed a bill where they need to teach the January 6th insurrection, the Pelosi instead of teaching the Pelosi Fedsurrection, they're going to teach to all public schools that it was a Donald Trump insurrection, right? So these are the things that are going to come into play in Virginia at scale. I think it's going to be even worse than California. And here's why. Abby Spanberger is John Brennan's protege. John Brennan, the former CIA director, the commie Islamist, right? John Brennan. And so you asked me the first question, where are these people? I only mentioned one, Joe Pienka. He's advising Eric Swalwell. And who else is up there? Well, another person that I didn't mention in that clip, but that I did mention yesterday when I confronted her after the what's his name? Brian Cole Jr., the alleged autistic pipe bomber. The lead prosecutor in that case is the same prosecutor that went after General Flynn and his weaponization. Her name's Jocelyn Ballantyne. That's the same prosecutor that went after the Pelosi political opponents known as the Proud Boys. This prosecutor was Jocelyn Ballantyne. So I sent you the clip, and I think it's worthy of playing that clip if you haven't seen it yet, Todd, just to give a little context so that we know exactly who she is. And the question should be, is this one of the people in the DOJ that has convinced the leadership to not pardon the nonviolent Proud Boys and Oath Keepers in order to save face for her persecution of these individuals? Her name's Jocelyn Ballantyne.
Do you have that queued up by chance?
While she's queuing it up, so here's something interesting too. You know, they keep pushing this January 6th insurrection to replace what is really January 6th about in religion, the Epiphany. So it's when the three wise men come and visit Jesus. And so what they're trying to do is take the religious aspect out of it and throw this January 6th insurrection. So they're trying to reteach history. That's why they're pushing this, because they're taking away God from the system. It just...
And also, before we play this clip, Ivan, I'm not sure you know, but in this show, we talk about the stuff that's bad, but we also try to come up with solutions. So we'd be very...
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just trying to lay out the problem that most people don't address, and I want to explain the urgency of it.
So here's the blueprint. Now, how do we, get from that information?
Okay, Cordelia, hit it.
Yeah, I don't know if she's got it queued up or not.
So the identifying the problem is the most important thing. I think Einstein said if I had an hour, I'd take 50 or 55 minutes to figure out what the right problem is before coming up with a solution. So the right problem is we have a government that is filled with holdover, COVID poisoned product bureaucrats. Okay. So my standard is as such, and I'm guessing Todd, maybe some of the rest of you are going to agree with this. And some people are going to say, oh, it's harsh. Well, while they're mutilating and murdering us, here's my stance. If you accepted the COVID jab in the last 5 years, you have no business in my government. Absolutely no business. And so in order to solve this problem, it's a personnel issue. Those that stood up against the tyranny were critical thinkers and pushed back. Well, guess what? They need to be elevated to the highest positions at the cabinet level, secretaries, the undersecretaries, the deputies, so that you have a Praetorian Guard that is already proven up and can now be in a moral standing to completely flush the entire system of vaxxed cucks. Okay?
But okay, so hang on. I heard something really important that you just said there. We don't want vaxxed people in these positions for reasons that we understand. But at the same time, the entirety of the legislature, the judiciary, and the executive branch exempted themselves from the shots. So
True.
is that a good litmus test?
That's true.
Well, let's start with, I'm here to improve, okay? The solutions are to improve the situation. So how do we deal with the executive branch? Well, I would say that the way you wipe out the executive branch, probably over 90 to 95% of it, is to remove those that are fighting against what we voted for and the mandate that we voted for. And a lot of people will counter argue and say, well, if we remove them, we won't have anybody fighting for what we're trying to do. Well, you're looking at it the wrong way. If you're in a boat and you're rowing and you have 100 people of the crew and 95 of them are rowing backwards or to the side, and 5 at the top, the captain, etc., is rowing in the direction that they're supposed to be, well, guess what? It's better to remove the 95 so that the 5 can make some progress. That's where we're at. So the Jocelyn Valentines of the world, and again, you can go to my X account and find it.
Jocelyn Valentine. That's what
VALL.
Okay.
Just go to my X account and then you can pop it up. I might be able to.
We're gonna get. I sent one to Cordelia already, but
and you'll take a look
so
there.
you're swimming upstream and everybody's swimming backwards. Got it.
Yeah. There you go. She's one of the deep staters, still employed by Judge Janine Pirro, completely manipulating what's going on at the DOJ.
Yeah, you want to play that, Cordelia? Good.
Here it is.
Ivan Raiklan.
Ivan, I know you.
How do you know me, ma'am?
Well,
everybody knows you.
Several trials that I also may have covered.
Such as? Such as the one against General Flynn? Such as the one against Enrique Tarrio of the Proud Boys? How do you expect America to believe that this gentleman, Brian Cole, is the pipe bomber, considering your work on the General Flynn case, considering your work on the case against Mr. Enrique Tarrio and the rest of the Proud Boys? Care to comment? Ma'am? Do you find it surprising that you still have a job at the Department of Justice? Do you think you survived because Ed Martin ended up going to the Department of Justice, Maine, as opposed to being the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia? Did you have any involvement in that? Did you work with some of the former Senate staff of senior influential Senate leaders that are at the U.S. Attorney's Office to make sure that Mr. Ed Martin would not be the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, to expose your involvement in covering up for the Fedsurrection? Ma'am? Care to comment?
She
Maybe
was hoping that would
got
end.
COVID shot and has brain fog, and that's why she can't recall.
Yeah, there's more to it, but bottom line there is she definitely knows who I am. I mean, I attended quite a few, not as many as Mickey Widhoff or some other folks, but I did attend the Proud Boys Oath Keepers, some of the key highlights, opening arguments, closing arguments mostly. And so these are the prosecutors that Pam Bondi, we were expecting Pam Bondi to completely remove out of the system, right?
That's right.
Flick them like boogers, okay? And we expected Kash Patel to bring in the whistleblowers, Garrett O'Boyle, Steve Friend, Kyle Seraphin even, right? All the whistleblowers that withstood the COVID tyranny and then started to expose as whistleblowers the organizations, particularly the FBI. What did they do? Nothing. They are protecting the deep state. Why? Due to cowardice, or maybe it's just because they're too busy filing lawsuits against these whistleblowers They're too busy going to MMA fights. They're too busy having dinners in New York. They're too busy listening to their beloved country sensations in Nashville, right? Meanwhile, John Brennan, as well as James Homie Comey, continue to treason. Okay? So we need to, going back to the solution.
But don't you think it's this, and I'm only being devil's advocate here.
Please.
Don't you think it's all been like a timeline that everything's supposed to be dripping out in a certain pattern and a certain thing, as opposed to everything flooded out to the normies? Just saying.
Yeah, so for 4 years of the first administration, the deep state ran Donald Trump to the ground to do nothing against them. Mike Pence ran Donald Trump. Now we have a love child of Hunter Biden and Mike Pence as the chief of staff, who operates on behalf of Miriam Adelson as the surrogate to ensure that her $250 million investment in Donald Trump comes to, there's an ROI behind it, right? A return on investment. So $250 million is not a access thing, in my opinion. It's a control thing. It literally, I mean, and you can see that pretty evident based on the last week or two of the moves that are being made by Donald Trump.
That's what I'm saying. It's like a drip as opposed to a flood. Everything's coming out, whatever. I mean, it's not in our time period. It seems to be in theirs.
No, I think it's on our time frame because we're able to push through the censorship. Remember, this administration, this White House, this Congress, this everybody, they follow our lead. Okay, it's not the other way around. When people like trust the plan, do this, no, they have to react and respond to us. Harmeet Dillon has to come out and respond to, oh, we're not going to convict or arrest anyone by January 6th. Oh, I meant to say the statute of limitations doesn't run on January 6th, folks. Well, to me, that means you're not going to act by January 6th.
That's exactly what that
You're
means.
pathetic. And I know these people. I'm going to continue to call them out as pathetic. And if they start to complain and say, well, why don't you come in and help? I'm available. You block me because you're cowards at best. So I'm just
name calling, even though it's good for rating.
I'm just going to continue to give solutions. Okay.
Right. Okay. That's fine.
So here are my solutions.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. I'm listening. Bring
this
it.
is the same solution that I said starting on January 20th. You want the name calling to stop? How about you go ahead and pardon the well, first off, how about you remove every single vaxxed person in the government? Because then you automatically hit everyone on the DEI, CRT, subversion, sabotage front across the board, both Democrats and Republicans. Boom, wipe them all out. That's simple. And you do it administratively. How? You put out an order saying that sign a sworn affidavit, employee, explaining the circumstances upon which you got the vaccination.
Okay.
Mean the quote vax. And in that you include two parts. One, all text messages, emails, meetings, everything, communications that you had by your leadership and by name, date, and the content of who compelled and coerced you into the jab.
Okay.
Okay. Unlawfully.
Okay.
The second
That's Robin's ice cream. Here, get a free ice cream because you get the jab. Same.
Yeah, on the second part of that, you list every media content and social media content that you used that convinced you into taking the safe and effective product. Okay.
Yeah.
That then can be used as administrative discharges, pulling clearances, everything across the board, right? That cleanses the system. Number two, okay, I get it. The president and vice president are both they're both jabbed, right? So we have to deal with that.
Supposedly. He always says, I took the Pfizer shot. He never says Pfizer. Pfizer. It's very clever. It's nuanced. I don't know if he did.
Yeah, it's very clever that he's taken boosters as well, according to his physician, as late as October 10th of this year. So I don't find it clever. He's just a brand ambassador, just like all of them.
When are they going after Ray Epps? When are they going to go after him? You know?
Number two, real quick, is the next thing that can be easily done, even though we have vaxxed presidency and vaxxed vice presidency. So a little known thing that I just posted it on X that most people aren't aware of is that to get to the bottom of January 6th, and we're a few days away from the anniversary, is that the Capitol Police Board chairman, and this is for you, Todd, like legalistically, remember that the legislative branch is its own entity and it has its own rules and its own law enforcement arm. And it's headed up by the Capitol Police Board, 3-board body, House Sergeant at Arms appointed by the Speaker, Senate Sergeant at Arms appointed by the Senate Majority Leader traditionally, although I argue constitutionally that the President of the Senate can flex and take control over that, meaning J.D. Vance. And in that role, this year, the Capitol Police Board chairman is the Senate Sergeant at Arms. So if J.D. Vance wants the answer sheet, here it is. You go ahead and by January 3rd, order your Sergeant at Arms in the Senate as the President of the Senate, J.D. Her name is Jennifer Hemingway. And you have her direct the Capitol Police General Counsel, Thomas DeBias, to release all deliberative documents and communications that were used in order to weaponize against J6ers. That will expose the Fedsurrection and the Fedsurrection cover-up because you capture his communications and all the work product of him manipulating the CCTV footage to only include incriminating, inculpatory evidence over to the DOJ for weaponization. You'll see what he decided on excluding the exculpatory stuff, and then you'll see his role and his team's role in manipulating the U.S. Capitol Police officer's testimony to carry the insurrection narrative and cover up the Fedsurrection reality. Okay?
All of that.
So J.D. Vance is in the position to do so, but the Capitol Police Board chairman ceases as the Senate Sergeant at Arms on January 3rd at noon. Then it goes back over to the Speaker of the House, where we'll wait and watch Mike Johnson for the next year continue to cover that up because he's already been in that position. He's already been predisposed to do that. So he's going to continue the cover up. So I say that the window is January 3rd. So if J.D. Vance can't do a simple thing such as that, I can't support him for running as a president because he can't even do the simple things. The other simple thing is why don't we've already did everything that Miriam Adelson wants to do this first year. Now let's go back and remember that, you know what, Tina Peters is rotting in prison. Okay. So while you prioritize those that were foreigners in captivity.
Okay, but remind
I get it. That was the ROI of the $250 million. But let's go back to like getting Tina Peters out.
Okay,
and
but
the way you
remind
do that
everybody
is
who she was. Remind everybody who she was. She was the whistleblower. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Remind everybody who Tina Peters was.
Tina Peters is do you hear that noise in the background?
No.
Okay. I'm trying to stop all my alerts from coming in. It's 10
Oh,
a
you're
second.
hearing it on your headphones. What?
Yeah, so Tina Peters was the only one of 3,143 county equivalent clerks that managed the 2020 federal, state, and local election throughout the country, and she preserved the records as required by federal statute. The state of Colorado deemed that act of following federal law to be in contravention with state law, and so they imprisoned her for 9 years. So she was trying to make sure that she could have the evidence to expose the illegal 2020 election. And she was prosecuted and persecuted by the very Secretary of State that was supposed to be managing and operating that 2020 election cleanly in Colorado, who then that same Secretary of State wanted to remove off the ballot Donald Trump in the 2024 election. So Tina Peters did that. And she's still rotting in prison, and it's a simple solution. You know, everything that I say requires minimal courage to moderate level of courage, and we have the precedent for it. David Clemens did a nice piece about it.
Wasn't she pardoned by the president, but then they're saying that she can't be pardoned because it's on the state level as opposed to a federal level?
Yes.
Yeah, so he did. And here's my, you know what? I'm going to come out with my analysis, and I'm going to be critical about it.
It's really frustrating.
When you pardon someone, knowing full well that the pardon will have no effect or force, you're basically, you're telling the country in the court of public opinion that are on the other side that you're acknowledging and acquiescing unnecessarily that Tina Peters now with the pardon, their messaging is going to be, oh, so you agree, Donald, that she's also a federal felon that requires a pardon. Wow, we didn't even say that ourselves, but now you just acquiesced by pardoning her. So the legal analysis behind that, I did not agree with, but that's what happened. The only way that she's getting out is through lawful physical extraction. Okay, that's the only way that she's getting out. And until, well, the other way is she's going to rot and die in prison. So then it's going to beg the question. If you're in a position, Mr. President, to go ahead and look over to Pam Bondi to have her direct the Federal Marshal Director, Gadyasis Seralta, and say, hey, why don't you order your 4,000 marshals to go ahead and conduct a raid, extraction of Tina Peters in order, and you do that after filing a criminal charges, multiple. I've laid this out for months. But bottom line is she's a federal witness, and the defendant in that criminal charges, Jenna Griswold and the co-conspirators for doing what they did, the U.S. Attorney for the District of Colorado should have already filed criminal charges on her. But there's no courage or like, oh,
because people
we're
won't
waiting
talk
for
about
the perfect time. Politically, we're doing this and that. Okay, politically, you're going to get slaughtered on January 17th. So, and I think more and more people realize that. And because no one's acting, like I have to be critical. Right. I don't need anybody's permission. I don't speak behalf on anybody that you think I'm affiliated with. These are my words. Right. I'm way more aggressive than anybody that you think I'm affiliated with. And I study this very closely, and I just sound the alarm. If you don't like the way I present it, great.
Well, we want you to push back. We need you to push back. We need people to go up.
Doc, Doc, I don't like talking over you. Please stop.
Sorry.
Ivan, I want you to go back to your Green Beret days. Help people understand what your mission is as a Green Beret when you are going to replace an unfriendly government to the United States. And then juxtapose that, please, to what it is we're undergoing right now in the United States.
Perfect question, Todd. So the doctrinal mission, the primary mission for a Green Beret and their team. So I was an officer. I led a detachment, and later I led a company. But you go into another country on behalf of the United States. You link up with an indigenous population, if you will, and in a government that is not friendly with the United States and our interests, but you link up with a organization from their government's perspective, it's an insurgent force. But from ours, it's a surrogate force that we need to get into power so that government's power is the political leadership becomes friendly to the United States. So using lawyerly noises, we remove an inimical governmental authority in that country and replace it with an amicable authority. And so we go and link up with an insurgent group to then flip their own government in their own language by doing what's known as training, advising, equipping. And that all of that I described in the collective is called unconventional warfare by definition and by doctrine. There's 7 phases to it. You can look at this all up. You prep, make initial contact, you organize, you build up, you conduct combat operations, and then you transition, right? Now apply that.
I was going to say, isn't this exactly what Victoria Nuland did in Ukraine? Right? We had an unfriendly, or let's put it this way, we had a pro-Putin government in Ukraine. U.S., NATO were worried about it. Victoria Nuland, it all goes over there, creates an insurrection, and lo and behold, you get a new leader, an actor, in fact, like all the other actors in D.C. But does it not strike you that that's precisely what's been happening, not just our nation, but a bunch of nations, that we are in the middle of a designed insurrection, but coming from both sides, an internal one that effectively just destroys the nation? There is no winner in this outcome, is what I'm trying to say.
All right, a lot of questions. Let me unpackage this real quick. So you have the Department of Defense's lead entity to do what's known as unconventional warfare is the Green Berets, right? Special Forces. But the Central Intelligence Agency also has a role in doing this at a covert and clandestine manner, right? But there is some overlap. Remember that the OSS is the precursor, Office of Strategic Services, is the precursor for both the CIA and the Army Special Forces, known in the vernacular as the Green Berets, right? So what happened in 2014, when I was on the Ukraine crisis team in the Pentagon as a senior analyst for advising what was going on to our National Command Authority, up to and including Barry Hussein at the time, right? Was what was going on was essentially Russian GRU Spetsnaz, which is their equivalent of special forces and their defense intelligence equivalent, were coming in to respond to John Brennan and Victoria Nuland's whatever you want to call it, change of power and regime in Ukraine. Now you could argue that is the role of our Central Intelligence Agency, right? You can, that's the mission set, I should say. You can then argue that, was it the right thing to do? Was it not? Like, that's another thing, but that is their role. But what's not their role is to do a regime change for the purposes of sending the Biden criminal syndicate to then conduct 10% for the big guy operations first, right? So, like, I think most of us, when you see that occurring, most voters that vote either party, like, that's corruption and that's treason, right?
Well, hang on. There's a name for it. It's called public-private partnership. That's what that is. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, and I call that treason. So,
yes, it is.
And so the Biden criminal syndicate would call it the public-private partnership. So when you observe that, essentially with the front row, second row seat to it, and you start to connect some dots, I mean, who was involved? You got John Brennan kicking things off, teeing things up for the Biden criminal syndicate's lead actor at the time, which was the failed Vice President Biden, as the point man for Ukraine. And then he brings in to conduct unconventional economic capability in that country his son, Hunter, to sit on the board of Burisma because of his subject matter expertise. And this is where I have to be real serious about this and say they hired Hunter Biden for $1 million a year in order to be, because of his completely capable olfactory senses. Left nostril was able to sniff out oil fields, and in his right nostril could sniff out natural gas fields in this fashion. Right?
How many lines of information did he get?
Yeah. And so that's why they were paying him $83,333.33 a month.
Wow. And you were there. You were in the middle of it.
I was in the Pentagon, kind of watching and observing everything, all the streams that were coming in English, Ukrainian, and Russian across the open source, as well as the classified stuff, right? But aside from that, like, in my free time, that was what I was doing during my work period. But I was looking at it from a political perspective too in my personal time, like off duty after work, and reading all the open source material on it. And you could sense that this ain't natural, buddy, to go ahead and send to a joint, what we later find out by Tony Bobulinski with the China dealing. The boilerplate language started in 2014 with the 10% for the big guy scheme, firing the prosecutor, Shokin, for $1 billion, right? You're not going to get the $1 billion if you're not going to fire this guy that's investigating my son, who's an advisor on Burisma. And then once you fire this guy, then you're not going to investigate my son's criminality and my from his perspective, the Biden criminal syndicate's criminality. And so once you do that, we'll send you the $1 billion. And just like Doge is exposed, that $1 billion converts into 10% for the big guy in a joint bank account between Hunter and his father. Okay. That's why the auto pen pardons go back to 2014. That's when it all started. So I've had a front row seat pretty much for this entire 11-year arc of treason. And I guess that's why they like to investigate me. And I've been investigated, I would argue, more than Donald Trump or anybody else. And I'm not saying that like to joke about it or
no,
I've been investigated by DOD, DOJ, DHS across almost 24 investigations as an insider.
Well, before we run out of time, I just want to say I think that we should nominate Ivan here as taking Pam Bondi's place. What do you guys think about that?
Oh, I like this.
I like that idea.
We have a lot of people that listen to this show.
Well, you know,
But before
I
we
think
talk
a better
about this-
position would be the Speaker of the House, because from
Yeah,
that position,
that's true.
and the only way that I could, like, I would be happy to do it, but the only way that I would take that position is if Elon Musk gave me full access to Twitter 1.0 holdings, all data. Because then I would be able to dig the sufficient necessary dirt that is more blackmail than the Epstein blackmail ring is on staffers and members of Congress, so that I could control them into voting, into doging, and completely nuking the corruption in our entire government, executive branch, judiciary, and then I would have enough votes to start expelling the worst members of Congress. So that would be my, if anybody has access to an attention of Elon Musk, then I would be happy to sit down with him to explain to him how that would look. And then he could take a victory lap and essentially be the catalyst for Doge on steroids. That's the only way we can get Doge.
That's
is
the
to
only thing
control the
that's
speakership.
ever going to
Also-
happen is if we get somebody in like Ivan, because this corruption has been going on for decades and decades and administrations after administrations. And I think what the American people are so frustrated with, we never see any prosecutions. We never see any jail time. I mean, what does it take? How much corruption and obvious in your face corruption does it take to get somebody in jail that's in power?
So here's
In jail.
the solution. You have a Speaker of the House
Mm-hmm.
to defund everybody, and then on the criminal prosecution side of it, we legislate a Article 1 court and create Article 1 jails, right? So how does that look? The sergeant at arms, I mean, who would be best suited to be the most ferocious sergeant at arms to go ahead and go kinetic against everybody, lawfully kinetically, through the office of the senior law enforcement official of the sergeant at arms, right? I would hire, if it was me as the Speaker of the House, I would hire every single of the tier 1 operators that have left the military over the last 5 years due to the pandemic, right? Because they've already stood up. Plus, they have the training, expertise, and knowledge and experience well greater than FBLI's HRT or any executive branch capability from the current regime. So that if we have to physically overpower the executive branch, if they're going to fail to respond to lawful legislation that shuts them down, then we can go physically, lawfully, kinetically, right? Again, I'm advocating for legal, moral, and ethical actions. If you don't like the word kinetic, I'm advocating for lawful violence. Lawful.
So also
that is a debate for another day, by the way, because we're out of time.
We're out of time,
And
but
I would like
really-
to chat. So just give me 1 second, Jamie.
Okay,
I
sure.
want to chat about lawful versus legal at some point. Go ahead, Jamie.
So just I wanted to say, if you want to meet Ivan, he's going to be on Long Island along with our Judy Mikovich, and there's going to be a tribute to Tina Peters, and there's going to be 17 people speaking. 17, we love the number 17. It's January 10th and 11th at the America First Warehouse, which is an amazing place. If you've never been there, you guys got to go. But it looks like it's Ivan. I see you in a suit and tie in this photo. It's a pretty.
Yeah, every once in a while, I'll throw on a monkey suit. I gotta look like a lawyer every once in a while, just like Todd.
Ivan, how do people follow you? How do they support you?
So you can follow me as long as Elon continues to allow me to speak on X, Ivan Raikkonen. I'm on Rumble, Telegram, some of the Clout Hub, free speech platforms, right? And then how can you support me? I'm actually, if you go to GiveSendGo /Terry Adirim, TerryAdirim, that's where you can support my going on offense against the COVID. I got to be careful how I say this. The Fauci of the DOD that's suing me for, quote, defamation, which is actually, it's truthful information about her role in unlawfully implementing the emergency use authorized product mandate known as the COVID jab.
That is the Achilles heel right there. And we'll get to that. Ivan, thank you for being here, brother. I can't tell you how
God bless
excited
all
I
you.
am.
Thanks
Took
for
the
listening to
time.
me.
Yeah, no, man, this is really important stuff. We need to get you back because you're so dynamic. It's hard to keep pace. We need to do that. And I really appreciate it, brother. You've been an OG in this fight and a blessing to us all. So thank you.
Same thing with y'all. We can't do it alone.
We got to start the new year right, and so we did. So God bless America and
arrests.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.